Good morning, dear students. Welcome to BPHES CSRD Institute of Social Work and Research Social Work Lectures Method Course 1 Social Casework Working with Individuals Unit 4 Part 1 Tools for Social Casework. We have completed the previous lectures, the history, components, values, principles, and process of social casework. Today, we are going to discuss the tools for social casework. What are the tools for social casework? So there are 8 tools for social casework. They are intake record, casework interview, home visit, caseworker client relationship, knowledge of resources or networking, communication, which includes verbal, non-verbal, eye contact, body language. Finally, recording and its type. So we have mainly 7 tools: intake, casework interview, home visit, networking, client-worker relationship, communication, and recording. What is intake record? This is the first tool of social casework. So every casework begins with an intake record, which is a kind of semi-structured interview. This intake record forms the first process of casework, that is study. So whatever information we need to collect from the client is collected in this first tool by means of a written document, an intake record. It includes the personal information, which includes age, his educational status, so all his demographic features. Then family information, whether he belongs to nuclear family, joint family, what are the family members, how many members are there, all the family details. Educational background, what are his educational qualification, whether he is a school dropout, whether he is undergoing any professional education, technical education, etc. Occupational history. If the client is an adult, some information about his past occupation, present occupation, and the present status, whether he is employed, unemployed, or underemployed. Then economic condition, which includes his family's economic status, whether he belongs to poor family background, middle income group, high income group, etc. Cultural background, which includes his religious, linguistic, regional characteristics. So this culture has impact on his behavior. Finally, the case history, the origin and development of the problem. When did this client develop the problem? So these are the major heads under the intake record. It may be 3 to 5 pages, and they are all objective information. There are some fixed format in which the client's details, informations are recorded. So that is called intake record. This is also known as a case record, case file. So these are the some objective information, and it may be handed over to the other professionals. It will be used for diagnosis, and this is also used for the base document for continuous assessment and analysis. So this is one of the basic requirement, and this is one of the primary tools for social casework. Now the second tool is the casework interview. So there are 5 types of interview. So this casework interview is a semi-structured, sometimes structured, sometimes unstructured. There are 3 types of casework interview. Generally, the semi-structured interview is used. In semi-structured, some questions are given in the format and answers may be open-ended. Additional questions may be asked relevant to the previous questions. So some basic structure will be there, but additional questions are added. Structured interview means the intake record. There is fixed format and all the information, the objective informations are collected from the client in a proper written format. Unstructured is in-depth interview where there is no questions, there is no format, fixed format, but the questions are focused on the problem the client faces, and since the persons are unique and his problems are unique, questions are also not in fixed format. Questions are asked as per the previous question, as per the information given by the client. So it is unstructured interview. So all these 3 types of interviews are part of casework interview. So we can broadly classify as per the process. There are 5 types of interview. The first one, intake. As I have explained to the intake record, that record is prepared by means of a casework interview, which is called fact-finding interview. Intake interview. This is mostly structured interview. इसमें format होता है, सवाल पूछते हैं, उसका जवाब objectively लिखते हैं briefly, and that becomes a case record is prepared. That is called the fact-finding interview or the intake interview. The second type of interview is diagnostic. Diagnostic interview is clinical and social diagnostic, which includes the interviewing the family members, which is called collateral interview. So the purpose is to diagnose, to understand the problem. So this interview, sometimes it can also include the interviewing the family together. It is beyond just interviewing the client. It is interviewing the significant others and other collaterals, and purpose is to arrive at a conclusion about the problem the person faces. So this is called diagnostic. It is explorative interview. It is in-depth interview. The purpose is to understand the client's problem, the real problem, the root cause of the problem. The third type of interview is treatment interview or the casework intervention. This is the most important part of casework. Much of the casework is dealing with intervention, the treatment interview. So at this level, all the counseling techniques are used, in-depth interviews are conducted. So there are certain dimensions, certain aspects for treatment interview. These interviews are non-directive. Means it is person-oriented, humanistic, in-depth interview where the client generally leads the interview. The counselor or the caseworker remains as a reality check, probes, asks questions. However, the client is free. It is a kind of free sharing. It is a kind of sharing all the information, sometimes emotional expression, So whatever the clients wants to share, it's in a kind of open and what to say, totally free sharing by the client. And the caseworker creates such a kind of encouraging, facilitative environment. And the clients will just pour out all the information, emotions, and the total disclosure of what the clients feels, what the clients thinks, and the client's past, present, future, everything is shared. And the whole problem the client face is totally understood, analyzed, explained. And in this, at one stage, there comes to some agreement between the client and the caseworker regarding the goals. What can be achieved? What should be the progress? ये केस वर्क का अंत क्या हो सकता है, इसमें क्या क्या हमें कर सकते हैं, क्या क्या बदलाव हो सकते हैं. सो दिस इज गोल सेटिंग, ये भी केस वर्क इंटरव्यू में होता है. एंड यू नो another dimension of this casework interview, the treatment interview, is the performance watch and monitoring, which means taking continuous feedback from the client and observing the progress of the client in casework. उसका बिहेव वर्तनावर कितनी बदलाव आ गया है, how much the person has improved, what kind of attitudinal change has taken place, what are the new insights, what are the new thinking styles, what kind of behavior modification is taking place in the client. So performance watch is taken place, and through these interviews the caseworker monitor the progress, evaluate the client. So all these things takes place during the casework intervention or treatment interview, which takes much of the casework time. It may run for a month, 2 months, 3 months, even up to 4 or 5 months. So this is the treatment process. This is the casework real interview. Now, at the stage 4, there is another kind of interview which is called follow-up interview. This follow-up interview can sometimes be telephonic interview. It can be third party interview. The caseworker may contact the family members, may contact the teachers, the employer, friends, relatives. So it is just to evaluate the success of the casework, to decide when to terminate, when to withdraw, when to close the case, whether the case is progressing, whether the case has been successfully completed, whether the case is going out of hand, whether the client is not making any progress at all, so that the client may be transferred or referred to other professionals. So all these things, the future of the client, the termination of the case is fixed through this follow-up interview. The follow-up interview is very important. It always takes place at least after 6 months. Even before that, the casework should not go beyond an optimum period of 6 months, maximum 1 year. So after 6 months, up to 9 months or 10 months, follow-up interviews are taken place. Then the caseworker either decide to close the case or decide to refer this case or transfer the case. So follow-up interview has that purpose, and it includes not only the client, it also includes other family members. Now, the last type of interview, that is the withdrawal or termination interview. You know, this termination interview or withdrawal interview is very important part of casework. For about 6 months, the caseworker and client, they have established so much confidential, trustworthy, very close, intimate relationship. And after this casework, once the problems are solved, once the client is empowered, now there is a stage this relationship has to be broken. It was a purposeful relationship. Once the purpose is served, the relationship has to be closed. So caseworkers should carefully conduct some interview, give some clues to the client. See, now you are on your own. You have improved a lot. It is time for us to close this relationship. This was a problem centered, purposeful relationship. Now, maybe we may have another 2 or 3 more sessions. After that, we will not continue. So, the last 3 4 sessions, the caseworker repeatedly reminds the client, see, this is your last 3, this is your second last, see, next session will be your last session. Afterwards, we may occasionally talk over phone. So, this is time to close, and you have very much improved your performance. Now, imagine how you were in the first interview, first session. Now see the progress that has taken place. Or even there is no progress, still the termination interview is required. The caseworker should be sincere. Honestly acknowledge that हमारा जो केस में ज़्यादा प्रोग्रेस नहीं हो रहे. आप भी देखो, आप पहले स्टेज में जैसे वैसे है अभी भी. हम अभी 6 महीने हो गया. हम अभी, मुझे ऐसा लगता है आपको और अच्छी हेल्प का जरूरत है. You need a better treatment. You are not going to benefit from my intervention. हमारा जो, हम बहुत अच्छे दोस्ती हैं, हम बहुत अच्छे का, हम एक दूसरों से ये काम बात करना अच्छा लगता है, लेकिन आपका जो प्रॉब्लम तो सॉल्व नहीं हो रहा है, ये आपको भी पता चल गया है. अभी हमें थोड़ा सोचना पड़ेगा, हम एजेंसी बदलाव करेंगे या दूसरा अच्छे प्रोफेशन के पास. सो प्रिपेयर द पर्सन टू एंड दिस रिलेशनशिप. दैट इज द टर्मिनेशन इंटरव्यू. Whether it is successful or not successful, termination is a must. Because no casework should go more than 1 year. Then it becomes a psychological treatment. It becomes a psychological counseling. You see, there is a difference between counseling and casework. Casework is always a short-term counseling. It's a short-term therapy. It cannot be longer than 1 year. If the client requires more help, then a referral or transfer is required. The caseworker is not the right person to continue that case. So this withdrawal interview is also very much important. So the casework interview can be of 5 types. So we have explained this, and the caseworker has to develop the competency, the skill for conducting all these 5 types of interview. Each interview has got its own purpose, its own limitations, strength, and significance in casework. So this is first 2 steps we have now discussed: intake record and the interview. Now coming back to the third steps, that is home visit. What is home visit? This home visit is very important tool in casework. So, what is the purpose of home visit? We have just now completed the important tools, that is interview. Casework interview is the main tool. All other tools can be called the supportive tools. So we have learned the 5 different dimensions, 5 different types of interviews. Now home visit is one tool for casework which is used at the second stage of the casework process, the verification of the facts. So in order to verify the truth of the client's sharing, इन अदर वर्ड्स, जो इनटेक में जो इंफॉर्मेशन क्लाइंट ने दिया है उसी को चेक करने, क्रॉस चेक करने के लिए, to verify the facts of the client's information, the caseworker at one point of time has to visit the house, if possible has to interview all the family members. They are all important stakeholders in the life of the client. होम विजिट में उसका पापा, मम्मी, ओ ब्रदर्स, सिस्टर्स, अंकल, ऑन, ग्रैंडमदर, जो भी घर में रहते उसके सबके साथ बात करते हैं. Then this kind of home visit and the interviewing the blood relations, family members will give insight to the problem that the client face. उसी के बहुत सारे पर्पस है. एक है जो प्रॉब्लम के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट करना, जो क्लाइंट जो शेयर किया उसको सच है क्या नहीं उसको वेरीफाई करना, और तीसरा पर्पस ये भी होता है ट्रीटमेंट, डायग्नोसिस एंड ट्रीटमेंट. उसके लिए भी होम विजिट इंपॉर्टेंट है. एक क्लाइंट का रियल प्रॉब्लम क्या है ये डायग्नोसिस के लिए भी होम विजिट इंपॉर्टेंट है. डायग्नोसिस के बाद अगर समझ में आ गया बच्चों को घर में अच्छा अटेंशन नहीं मिल रहा है, द चाइल्ड इज नॉट वेल एडजस्टेड इन द फैमिली, और आफ्टर क्लिनिकल डायग्नोसिस इट हैज बी रियलाइज दैट ये बच्चे का IQ इज वेरी वेरी पुअर इंटेलिजेंस, इज ऑफ वेरी पुअर इंटेलिजेंस, IQ लेवल थोड़ा कमजोर है. सो द केस वर्कर हैज टू शेयर दिस फैक्ट्स विद द फैमिली मेंबर्स, so the family members will make their change in their attitude towards the client. The family members will better accept the client, the child, and there will be a change in the family environment. So this environmental modification, that is also one purpose of home visit. Because home casework is what? Caseworker feels that this problem with the individual is really a social problem, not really an individual problem. So, change in the society, the immediate society for the client is the family. Family may changes, family may intervention. There should be some kind of intervention with the family, which is possible through home visit. अभी कुछ लोग बोलते हैं कोई बच्चे तो ऑर्फन है, ऐसा भी हो सकता है, फिर उसको फैमिली भी नहीं होता है, फिर होम विजिट में क्या मतलब है? अगर ऑर्फन है देन विजिट द ऑर्फनेज, देयर आर सम पेरेंट सब्स्टिट्यूट, वार्डन जो होगा, देयर आर सीनियर स्टूडेंट्स देयर who behave like her elder brother and sister. So there are so many family member substitute wherever the child is institutionalized. इसलिए उनको भी फैमिली होता है. It's a little artificial environment, but family में जैसे रिश्ता है, जैसे रिश्ता ऐसा institution में होता है. The child has developed parental feelings with the warden, with some teachers, with some elder, with some adult members of the institution. उसके साथ बात करना, उसका वहाँ का adjustment, उसमें improve करना, that is the purpose of home visit. So that is the third tool of casework. Now the fourth tool is called client caseworker relationship, or the caseworker client relationship. Now this fourth tool is another very important part of casework. Very important tool for casework, we call the relationship tool. This whole social work, especially casework, is the relationship based business. The whole treatment, the whole intervention is based on a trustworthy, a purposeful, a professional relationship established between caseworker and the client. Now we need to understand the difference between personal relationship and the professional relationship. Human beings as we all know, social animals enjoy the relationship of other people. They want always appreciation from others. They always like someone encouraging them, smiling at them. That is very personal relationship. Two people have very personal relationship at home. Children develop very close, intimate, personal relationship with their parents. Parents develop such an intimate relationship with their children. Friends, gangs, they develop very close, intimate relationship. Lovers, they're very close to each other. They always enjoy each other's company. Very personal relationship. So human relationships are primarily personal. Even the caseworker client begins with personal relationship. The caseworker tried to befriend the client. उसको दोस्त समझकर, not to develop the trust, उसके साथ दोस्ती बनते हैं पहले. चलो हम खेलेंगे, कहानी सुना देंगे, कि आपका गाना मुझे सुनना है. So some kind of personal relationship. Gradually, the caseworker turns it into professional relationship. Professional means problem-solving relationship. Problem-oriented, purposeful, and the focus of this relationship gradually changes. The caseworker will bring the attention of the client to work on his problem. First of all, make him realize what is his problem. कभी कभी ऐसा होता है, क्लाइंट को पता भी नहीं चलता है मेरा समस्या क्या है, मैं इनके साथ क्यों बात करना है, मेरा इनके साथ ये रिलेशनशिप का क्या फायदा होने वाला है. So caseworker at one point of time make the client realize. बच्चे को बोलता है, अरे तुम्हारा स्टडी में मैं इतना खुश नहीं, तुम्हारा अच्छा दोस्त है, हम खेलने में अच्छा लगता है, तुम्हारा गाना सुनने मुझे अच्छा लगता है, तुम्हारे साथ मुझे बात करना अच्छा लगता है, लेकिन तुम्हारा ये जो स्टडी है ना, मुझे ये अच्छा नहीं लगता, पसंद नहीं लगता. तुम्हारा पापा को भी ये पसंद नहीं है, टीचर्स को भी ये पसंद नहीं है. इसमें थोड़ा सा बदलाव लाना है. So bring the client realize there is some relation, something not right with it. There is not something which you need to change. So bringing him this kind of realization, awareness of his problem, that is the first point of this professional relationship, evolution of the professional relationship. Then gradually both of them realize that yes, this is a professional person, he is working to solve my problem. मेरे पास ऐसा प्रॉब्लम है, उससे सॉल्व करना चाहते हैं, इसलिए this person is going to help me. So that slowly the client realized the difference between his personal and professional relationship with the caseworker. So that's why we call that this is a profession based on relationship. Relationship is the main tool. Oh, that is initially personal but gradually professional, and this professional relationship will have an end. A problem जब solve हो गया, purpose तो serve हो गया, the need is solved, the problem is solved, the relationship is broken. Because the caseworker has so many other people, clients to deal with. उनके पास उनका time is very valuable. He's a professional. You just imagine if a doctor maintained the personal relationship with the patient, how many patients will be there daily? Hundreds, 200, 300 patients are coming to the doctor. Doctor smiles, make a very good relation with the client. कैसे हैं, तुमने आज क्या खाया, आपने क्या क्या किया. It is very personal, but once the diagnosis is over, once the prescription is given, the doctor forgets the patient. The patient will never forget the doctor. उससे तो वो डॉक्टर है, मुझे कुछ भी हो जाए और डॉक्टर के पास जाना है. मेरे बेटी भी कभी याद करते, मुझे इसी डॉक्टर के पास जाना है, और डॉक्टर चॉकलेट देते, कोई दूसरा डॉक्टर ने ऐसे नहीं देते. The patient will never forget. Even your client will never forget you. But you have to forget this client. You can't memorize all these clients. There are so many clients, and you have to give them, you are serving them. You are professionally bound to serve them to solve their problem, and you are not allowed to maintain a personal relationship at all. So, professional ethics demands that we should not have any personal, our personal interference should not be there, it should be limited. The professional relationship should not be contaminated by the personal concern, personal relationship. Dosti, sexual flirt, taking advantage. So, the caseworker should be very much aware of his professional relationship or her professional relationship. Client need not be aware of that. For the client, there is only one type of relationship, that is personal relationship. But for the caseworker, he knows that he is dealing with the client at a professional level. It's only purposeful. Once the purpose is over, the relationship is broken. So he should not maintain the personal relationship. Okay. Now, next tool, that is the knowledge of resources or the networking. What is this networking tool? So in casework, networking is very important. Networking is having relationship with other resources, other agencies, other professionals, having contact, having a kind of networking. So this networking is very important for diagnosis, for treatment, for the referral, for the transfer of the cases. Sometimes the caseworker may not be competent to solve this problem by himself. He may require the help of other professionals. So with this networking, he can invite other physicians, psychologists, lawyers, take their advice, sometimes refer the client to them for their short-term advice. So this kind of reference, transfer, this caseworker should be equipped. He should be resourceful. The caseworker should have enough informative resources. He should collect all the information about the government support, the resources available in the government sector, public sector, other resources in the private sector, some supporting agencies. For suppose the client is very poor, where the client can get a job, where the client can get some financial assistance. So the caseworker should have information, contact with other community resources, so that he or she can help the client. Refer this client for further assistance, for the rehabilitation, repatriation of the client. The caseworker require the networking resources. He or she should be resourceful. So that is called the networking. Now, the next tool is communication. This communication tool is very important. In communication, it is very much related to the relationship tool. In communication, there are mainly 4 types of communication. Primarily, verbal communication. Verbal communication is the verbal exchanges. What the caseworker talks and what he listens from the client. So this is the verbal communication. The caseworker should be very skillful in verbal communication. What to speak, when to speak, how much to speak. So this verbal communication is the one type of, and primarily that is the main tool, verbal communication. Now what is this non-verbal communication? Non-verbal communication is the listening. Communication is not only talking, it is also listening. Listening means receiving the verbal communication expressed by the client. So you have to listen So you have to show an attentive face. You should show the client that you are listening. This is the non-verbal communication. This is the non-verbal feedback you give. You nod your head. You show some emotions on your face. Sometimes smile, sometimes disappointment, sometimes anger. So this is all emotional expression without the use of words. And this is mainly happening while you listen to the client. So verbal communication is mostly you talk. Non-verbal communication mostly you listen. So you need that skill also. You need to develop that competency. Another thing is eye contact. You have to keep constantly eye contact with the client. So I want to remind you, sometimes you should withdraw your eye contact. You should not always stare at the client. Sometimes it is told that avoid the face-to-face sitting arrangement. Let the client sit on the left or right and let them look at a little far away, some horizon, some picture on the wall or something else. Or you don't look at his face sometime, look at far corner, another corner of the room, so that client may feel more comfortable to share. So eye contact is also means that when to keep the eye contact, when to withdraw the eye contact, it's all part of your total listening. In order to improve your listening, sometimes you need not stare at the client. The staring sometimes make the client uncomfortable. Often it is advised directly look into the eyes so that the client feels that you are totally listening to the client. Sometimes withdraw your eyes, concentrate on something else, but ears should be very much giving attention. So eye contact is very important in communication. You must maintain very proper, appropriate, optimal eye contact. Now what is this body language? Body language means the gestures, the body position. So you should be very relaxed, should be smiling, you should have gestures with your hands and it should be non-threatening. The client should feel that there is a good friend in front of me with whom I can very well communicate. A body language should give confidence to the client. So this body language is the way you communicate with your body position, with your gestures. So all these aspects of communication is very important for your casework success. And the last tool is the recording. Recording is very important for casework. You know, casework is a highly professional activity where the caseworker has to keep on recording whatever happened in the casework. With the permission of the client, caseworker can even video record or even audio record the conversation that is taken place between the caseworker and the client. All the more important is keeping a written record, a proper record, case-to-case record, day-wise, date-wise, time-wise. Keep on recording whatever you have communicated, whatever is communicated by the client, because all this information pieces of information are going to be useful for diagnosis, treatment, reference and transfer. Suppose there are some legal matters involved, your recording is very important. Sometimes the client, it so happens some very unfortunate case, sometimes the client has shown some suicidal tendencies. The situation has become worse, has become a psychological problem. Then when it is transferred to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, They will definitely inquire what was the previous history, what kind of treatment this person has undergone earlier. उसका रिकॉर्ड क्या है? उसके लिए आपको रिटर्न रिकॉर्ड इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. आपने जो बात करते हैं उसमें कोई फायदा नहीं. आपने जो दिखा था ये मैंने इसके साथ 7 सेशन लिया था. पहले सेशन में ये हुआ, दूसरे सेशन में ये हुआ, तीसरे सेशन में ऐसा गोल सेटिंग हो गया, क्लाइंट ऐसे से करने को मेरे को जो जो उन्होंने बताया, आपने जो भी बताया सभी का रिकॉर्ड रखना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. दिस रिपोर्टिंग मेक ए प्रोफेशनल. आप लोगों के साथ बात करते हैं, उसको मदद करते हैं, दैट इज वॉलंटरी सोशल वर्क. जब आपको रिकॉर्डिंग करते हैं, दैट बिकम ए प्रोफेशनल एक्टिविटी. दिस रिकॉर्डिंग मेक्स ए वॉलंटरी वर्कर ए प्रोफेशनल वर्कर. This recording is very important tool, and there are 3 types of recording. So they are narrative, process, and summary recording. This narrative and process record are very much similar. It is daily recording. Whatever happens is recorded. So narrative means the verbatim record. All that is happening has been recorded as it is. So narrative recording is the bulk of your daily reporting, daily recording. जो भी आपने डेली जो क्लाइंट के साथ बात किया उसी दिन में, उसी टाइम, उसी वक्त रिकॉर्ड करके रखना, दैट इज द नैरेटिव रिकॉर्डिंग. Now process recording, often it is interchangeably used, narrative and process. But for making a better understanding of the process record, I can make a small distinction. You know, casework has several processes: study, continuous assessment, diagnosis, treatment, follow-up, termination. These are the important process. These are the important steps in casework. So your recording can reflect this process. So you can say first 2 interviews were in the intake stage. The next 3 interviews were in the diagnostic stage. It is a stage-wise recording. It is again a narrative recording, but rearranged stage-wise, process-wise, prakriya anusar. So you will get a better recording of whatever you have done. More systematic recording. So you can identify the different stages of casework by reading your process recording. That is called the process recording. Now, last, the summary recording. Summary recording are again different types. Sometimes it called problem-oriented record keeping. Sometimes it is called subjective, objective analysis. So there are different types of summary recording. Summary recording can also be one sheet of summary of the case that you have handled. अगर आपको ये केस किसी डॉक्टर के पास देना है, साइकियाट्रिस्ट के पास ट्रांसफर करना है, उनको sometime 1 page summary is required. इनका प्रॉब्लम क्या है? Tell me only the problem. The physicians, doctors are interested. Don't tell me all his history, all his occupational, educational, family history. इसका समस्या क्या है? What is the real problem? What is the clinical diagnosis? What is the real problem, clinical problem for which I can interview? So some lawyers may require, उसमें legal implication क्या है? Give me a summary, legal summary. So summary is prepared as per the need. Need of the reference, need of the transfer. Sometimes the agency requires a summary, a 1-page summary. ये case कौन सा तरीका था? It was a case of school dropout, and after the intervention, the case is successful or failure. So summary recording is maybe 1 page, maybe 2 page, maybe 3 page. It is prepared as per the circumstance, as per the need, just to summarize all the process, just to summarize whatever has taken place in the casework. So this is summary recording. So we have discussed in this lecture 7 steps of or 7 tools of casework. They are the intake record, the casework interview, which is further 5 types, home visit, networking, client worker relationship, communication, and recording. So this was the 7 types of 7-fold tools of social casework. Now, the next lecture, we will study the different types of techniques used in social casework. So meanwhile, let me remind you, don't forget to put your questions, your doubts in the chat box, which I will deal with during the online classes. So with this, let me conclude. Thank you very much. See you in the next class.